Curry was born for the highlight era. Stephen Curry is the Magic Johnson of our time. Just as the legendary Lakers point guard transformed Earl Monroe and Pete Maravich's spectacular but often unwinnable style into a Showtime system, his successor has taken the best from his less successful predecessors. Iverson's dribbling, Steve Nash's assists, Ray Allen's three-pointers and signature acrobatic numbers under the basket. This insane cocktail will get to you even if you're in the tank. Curry is the NBA's every child. Curry is 27, and he manages to combine seemingly opposite things, being the head of the NBA's most talked about family and remaining the NBA's top child at the same time. It's probably all in the guise of the innocent little angel that balances the two hypostases. The kid hung around the league locker rooms in the 90s and has continued to do so these days. He certainly hasn't changed on his face. In 1992, Baserka Petrovic held Steph in her arms while Del Curry made three-pointers on All-Star Weekend. In 2015, Curry donated to the Drazen Petrovic Museum one of the jerseys he played in the final series. Curry doesn't have the pathos of big-time players. Most stars force themselves into an unnatural state of stress. You can't imagine Kobe without a manic focus on results, LeBron without a bit of a feigned burden of leadership, Shaq without a buffoonish mask. Curry doesn't look like a star, and he doesn't try to impersonate an important leader. He doesn't portray seriousness, he avoids using catchphrases. If you take his role on the court out of the equation, there's no way to differentiate him on the team. Curry is the most fun he has, which is only natural because he seems younger than everyone else. Curry gets criticism right. Curry is no less vindictive than his friend Draymond Green, but does not reveal sources of additional motivation. Except that he can make jokes about naysayers. Curry knows that irony is the most effective way to respond. I just want to say, I apologize to everybody for not getting injured last year. I apologize for the fact that we beat those who came out against us. I apologize for all the awards we got, both individual and team. I'm very, very sorry. Curry is one of the few NBA players not spotted in silly, controversial, outrageous and other silly stories. Constant attention and pressure from the outside sooner or later put cracks in the most perfect images. Derrick Rose was the most adored man in Chicago, but then he started giving odd interviews time after time. Kevin Durant was considered perfect, then became a rapper and got into crazy sports with Lil B. Russell Westbrook is fueled by conflict and managed to turn even the Nuggets mascot against himself. LeBron James in this sense is a whole grandiose misunderstanding with controversial quotes and subsequent rebuttals, decisions overturning previous decisions, tactics of silence and inflammation. Either 3 years of college really means something, or it's a matter of being raised in a family and not on the street, that Curry's has worked out differently so far. Curry is ambitious, but tries to hide any extremes. Most athletes are pathologically competitive and maniacally focused on winning. Some emphasize this in themselves, others make a show out of it. Some of it comes out in the form of constant struggle with journalists and social media users. Curry is no different and wants to be the best at both the game and three-pointers. For example, Brian Scalabrine said that all the Warriors players held a grudge against him after he talked about Kyle Korver's number of three-pointers in a row and insisted that he was the league's best sharpshooter. Thompson and Curry, meanwhile, struggled to outdo Korver's numbers and then claimed that Scal was making it up. But such examples Curry prefers to leave behind the scenes. He's focused on results, but he doesn't break partners, he doesn't yell when things don't work out, he doesn't challenge them via social media. And he certainly doesn't go out and fight with anyone through the media. Curry is naturally humble. The Warriors leader pushes farewell speeches in the locker room and takes the initiative at the right moment, but in all other situations he somehow naturally fades into the background. It's always been that way. In college, the coach had to make him throw more and explain that, rather than assists, would help the team. Curry always emphasizes his religiosity and the fact that he is merely representing God's interests in the NBA. Always merges in ecstasy with the reserves, noisily celebrating Klay Thompson's shots. Always stressing the role of partners and not separating himself from the broad we that makes everything happen. Clutch time is what Curry gets on the court for fear of responsibility, and losing face in crucial minutes is the bane of many superstars. The mail doesn't work on Sundays, fourth quarters and LeBron, tragic Johnson, Kobe Bryant's 4 misses. The frustrations of fans have always turned on the stars, who have had to prove their claims in the final minutes. For some, their career progress was marked by a psychological acceptance of such moments. For others, the stigma of choker put a question mark over their entire careers. Curry has never had such problems. To everyone, he was a baby-faced killer. Curry is already being called the best sniper in NBA history before Curry came to the NBA. The definition of a sharpshooter was fairly straightforward. A player who either stood in a corner and waited for an open shot, or a guard who ran through screens to get the ball and dispose of it. The new format point guard changed that. First, he started throwing three-pointers from the lead, and second, he started doing it a lot and as accurately as ever. Advertisement 18+ Curry has rewritten the record for most three-pointers in a season the past 2 seasons, and things are looking up for him to do so this time as well. This season, he has taken another step forward. That is, backwards, by deciding that three-pointers from 8 yards are no different than those from 6. Curry created a new kind of dominance in basketball Curry has no parallel in history. There are prototypes like Steve Nash, who combined a steady shot with a pure point guard function. There are people who may have a better shot, but not with a lead and not on such an industrial scale. But we've never seen anything like it. The point guard position has always been crucial, but only in exceptional cases has a true point guard, not 2 feet tall and not outstandingly athletic in a white man's league, made a team a champion. It was the bigs who dominated basketball, and then Michael Jordan and LeBron James. In the era of point guards, it should have been a matter of time before the frontrunners themselves. But it turned out a little differently. The first champion of the new era was not a classic playmaker like Chris Paul, but a unique Curry with his uncharacteristic three-pointer. Curry has no flaws, except one. The habit of chewing his mouthpiece and pulling it out of his mouth can hardly be called aesthetically pleasing. But it's just the kind of flaw that emphasizes the lack of real problems. Curry is so perfect that if you don't root for it, you feel like a jerk. Curry makes everything seem to work itself out. Curry is a showman, but he doesn't play to his audience. You can't take your eyes off of him, but he's an organic part of the team game. He's not trying to stand out, it's the way he plays that makes him stand out. Curry has been called a cheater. It's as if he's cracked the code of a computer game and turned basketball into something too simple, almost unrealistic. He seems to make decisions that would make J.R. Smith and Nick Young blush, super complicated shots, not the most obvious passes, dribbling around an entire 5-man roster. But most of the time he gets away with it. The basketball turns into something fun and festive. The aesthetics of the game start to not just slip sparks, but outshine everything else. Curry is ambitious, but tries to hide any extremes. Most athletes are pathologically competitive and maniacally determined to win. Some emphasize it in themselves, others make a show out of it, some of them take the form of constant struggle with journalists and social media users. Curry is no different and wants to be the best at both the game and three-pointers. For example, Brian Scalabrine said that all the Warriors players held a grudge against him after he talked about Kyle Korver's number of consecutive three-pointers and insisted that he was the league's best sniper. Thompson and Curry, meanwhile, struggled to outdo Korver's numbers and then claimed that Scal was making it up. But such examples Curry prefers to leave behind the scenes. He's focused on results, but he doesn't break partners, he doesn't yell when things don't work out, he doesn't challenge them via social media. And he certainly doesn't go out and fight with anyone through the media. Curry isn't like the stars of today when it comes to relationships with coaches and the club. As you know, the NBA is a league of stars who influence both club decisions and coaches and move freely between teams. Or at least hint that such a possibility is allowed. Curry has managed all along to avoid any ambiguity in this regard. In the most difficult situation of his career, he has shown himself to be as loyal as possible. He stood up for Coach Jackson for a very long time, and after his resignation he didn't make things worse inside the club.